The Sony Xperia Z is the second smartphone in India with a 5-inch 1080p display. This follows the HTC Butterfly in terms of the display quality, the resolution and the overall power specs. However, there is a lot different about the Xperia Z in comparison to the Butterfly. Let me just first run you through the build quality of the phone, the new UI and the specs. First up, the color that we have received is the white finish. It looks quite neat, it looks quite nice. It's a 5-inch phone, it's big to hold. The Xperia Z, it's not shying away from the fact that it's a big screen display. But the interesting thing is, all these covers on the pods basically mean this phone is capable of the water resistant IP57 rating that Sony has given this device. You will read more about the IP57 and what it can do and what it basically rates in our detailed review on the website. On this side, you have the micro SD card slot and the charging port, both with some fairly classy covers on it. On the top is 3.5mm jack, again covered by a cover. This side you have the SIM card slot. It's slightly irritating the way it works. Then you have the power key and the volume rocker. Now coming back to the SIM card slot, why I say it's a little annoying is because there is somehow no mechanism to kind of push the SIM card back in to have it snap out. You have to essentially pull out the tray that's in there, put your SIM card, the micro SIM in that, and then push this back in again. Now in case something goes wrong with this cover, by chance your SIM card is basically not protected against falling out. So that could be a bit of an issue, so you should be careful of not breaking this particular cover. The volume rocker and the power key sit on this side. The silver finish on both is one of the few shiny elements in the phone. The only thing about the power key is that while it has been placed to be used like this when you're holding the phone for single hand use, the slightly protruding design, if I may say, of this power key is a little bit of a contrast to the overall flush elements on this particular chassis. Having said that, that's nothing really to be criticizing too much. On the back, it's the enamel white finish with a glass layer on the top. Now this creates a bit of a problem. If you're keeping this phone in your pocket, which probably has the car keys or a pen or some coins lying around, this will get scratched. If you look carefully, even this phone, we've tried to be very careful with it, but it has some visible scratches on it. Now essentially you would need a cover for this phone, there's no getting away from that fact, and the screen protector for both the front and the back. The 13.1 MP camera is on the top, the rest of it is completely clean. The speaker, which usually is on the back on most phones, is on the side here. That's pretty much set in terms of build quality. On the front, there's one little element. The three keys that we are used to seeing below the display, the return key, the home key and the task manager, have been removed from either being a hardware key or a touch sensitive key below the display. Instead, the three have been integrated in the UI throughout. Now, coming on to the user interface, the UI on this Xperia Z has been redone. If you talk about the same interface that we saw on the previous 2012 Xperia range of phones, it's got a slightly different look in terms of the icons, certain amount of widgets and the way the UI is handled. Nothing major, but these slight tweaks do make a lot of difference. Now, speaking about the display, this is a 5-inch display with a 1080p resolution. The pixel count is pretty similar to what we've seen in the SLCD3 on the HTC Butterfly. Where this one loses out is in terms of color richness side by side. Now that is something that was expected, but Sony have really cut that up to a certain extent. I mean, the gap is not as much as we expected because of the Bravia engine. This is an updated version of the Bravia engine that we saw on the 2012 Xperia range of devices, so that is a bit of an improvement overall. This has a slightly newer version of Android. It has Jelly Bean, but again, it's still not the latest Jelly Bean, so that's a bit of an issue. It has 4.1.2 at the moment. So that basically brings in the goodness of Google Now if you're looking for that. The app drawer is pretty much the way it was handled in the previous UI on the previous generation of Xperia phones. The specifications, this has a quad-core processor, it's got 2 gigs of RAM, It's got 16 gigs of internal storage and a memory card slot. All in all, you're pretty much set for using this phone in terms of being ready for a few months of purchase and using it for a few months. It won't get outdated very quickly. Apart from that, well, as we said, you can consider the HTC Butterfly, which is in the same price bracket essentially for a big screen phone, or you can pretty much wait for the Samsung Galaxy S4, which has been rumored for a launch sometime in March.